Welcome back. It's still VOP this morning on Voice of the People Television. Moving straight down to the front pages of the national dailies. And this morning I have the Punch newspaper before me. And the banner headline there reads, Nationwide protest. SGF ministers hold emergency meeting today. And the riders are Tinubu urges you to shelve August 1st rally. Atiku, LP caution against protesters' arrest. Egbetokun warns anti-government protesters, says Nigeria hasn't recovered from #EndSARS. And we have above the nameplate, the window headlines there. National Assembly okays 70,000 naira wage, Labour to meet governors. Senate approves IGP's tenure extension. That is on page 16 of the Punch newspaper. FG votes 20 trillion naira for Lagos, Calabar, others. That's on page 25 of the Punch newspaper. And beside the nameplate, we have a headline to be Drama as Reps order WAEC officials detention. That is on page 7 of the Punch newspaper this morning. And we have a pictorial. And this pictorial will have a military hands over rescued Chibok girls, 330 orders to Borno government. And that is a pictorial you're seeing there. You see some of them seated taking a sweetened drink, carbonated drinks. And I'm happy actually that we have 330 other people being rescued and handed over to the government of Borno State. And just beneath that pictorial, I'll have other headlines to be. A Malta plant, Kyari counters Dangote amid calls for probe. And that is one of our major topics of discussion this morning. Mohbad's family conducts fresh autopsy. That is on page 5 of the Punch newspaper this morning. And this is coming after some time ago where we had a report that, people were talking about how a US-based lab come up to say, no, we didn't conduct any autopsy on him. And, a lot of people were talking about that in some other phase. But I'm happy that they are talking about conducting fresh, autopsy to know what really happened, what happened to Mohbad. Okay, and the last but not the least,
talking about autopsies being conducted, I don't know how accurate it will be at this time.
Yeah.
Because the body has started decomposing, the organs have started decomposing. If the autopsy had been conducted immediately, he was exhumed, or before he was even put in the ground, then one would say yes, that you can get an accurate figure or an accurate data of what might have transpired. But conducting an autopsy months after, it's almost a year after.
Yeah.
It's almost a year after.
Yeah.
It was September last year?
Oh, yeah.
So conducting an autopsy at this time is, I don't know. I don't know how much information they can get from decomposing organs.
I was actually expecting
able to preserve the organs.
The man that came up to say something about having a result from the autopsy they conducted on him. He lied about that, actually saying that he died over the excess of drug usage. But he couldn't tell us what drug, but he actually made mention of that before he now came back to say that that was after the US-based lab refuted
those claims.
Yeah, the claims. And, we are yet to get more. But if you ask me my own opinion, I'll be like, we should actually allow this dead young man rest. Because it's more like the way it's going. I don't really think some people want the truth about his death to be made.
Of course, that's what it seems like. But then the family would need closure.
Yeah.
The people would need to know. And Nigerians that have supported, fought for justice, would want to know what truly transpired.
Exactly.
That's why all of this is going on.
We have the last but not the least of the headlines.
Okay, that's another one.
Yes. Our abductors got 5 million naira ransom, and that is coming from the freed copper. And you have this to be on the page 4 and 5 of the Punch newspaper this morning.
All right, there's a headline here that really interests me. But before we go into that headline, let's introduce our guest. One of our guests this morning, he's joining us for the paper review and into the conversation proper. We have Opeoluwa Taiwo, who is Director, African Bridge Initiative, a non-governmental organization. Good morning to you.
Yeah, good morning. Good to be here this morning.
Good to have you.
Good to have you.
Thank you.
Now, the story about the Chibok girls is, it comes up again.
Yeah.
There's one of them, Ayi or something. She's one of those that we hear have been rescued. I don't know if you saw that story. Now, the girl one of those abducted in 2014, thereabout. She had to... Now, Fina was asking before we came on if she was rescued or if she jackpot. No, I think it was David that said, did she jackpot or was she rescued?
She rescued, yeah.
Now, well, the military is saying that she was rescued. But in her... when she was being interviewed, she said she had to trek a long distance from the camp. She trekked for days with, I think, 2 of her children. She had, according to her, she has had 4 children, and she's pregnant for one now. And she was made to marry 8 men, while in the enclave of the Chibok, the
abductors.
Yes, the abductors.
Yeah.
Thank you. She's been made to marry 8 men over 10 years. All right, she's 27 now. That's to say that she was 17 at the time. And she said she doesn't know if she would want to continue education. I mean, if you've been out of school for 10 years, then would you want to go back? Would you want to continue? I don't think that's something that... now she has kids to cater to.
Right.
And, you know, this conversation of Chibok girls still makes one wonder what government is doing. Apparently, from pictures, the kids were looking okay, healthy, looking healthy. They were not looking malnourished. So apparently, one can conclude that they are living a relatively good life. A good life, in fact.
Bush.
Well, you call it bush. It's a community.
Oh, they have a community.
Oh, it is a community. How do you speak? I mean, what do you say to this, really?
Well, this particular story reminds me of a recent
happening,
whereby a woman was a young woman or young lady was arrested. You know, she was recruited, or maybe she was made to or she had a boyfriend who is one of the bandits. All right. So apparently she recruited her own daughter into that business because
banditry.
According to the report I got, every day they were meant to get 50,000 naira daily from the Boko Haram guys.
Lucrative.
So that means they were living big, in line with what you said.
Yes.
So that's why I went that route. I mean, they are living big. So the lady said, within 3 years, she has recruited 2 of our friends into that
do
business.
What exactly? To
Now, what they do is that so that they will become like a, will I call it a toy or something something around that. No, not really a spy, like a sex toy. After a sex toy, then you have to go to the market on their behalf every day.
Oh,
Go to the supermarket.
So you're there.
You are there.
Whenever they have the need for sex.
They need for you are doing the inside. You're also doing
wifey role.
You are doing the wifey job, and
voluntarily.
A full-time wifey job. With that, you're also protecting their interests because they can't go to the market, but they have the cash. Because each time they abduct, you have to pay ransom in cash. So they have this cash. So the question is, where are they keeping the cash? How do we track those cash? That's another conversation we should be having. Because apparently as of today, these guys are cash loaded.
Of course.
I believe you saw the video that displayed sometime where there were the ones with our mints, the new printed Naira notes, even when Nigerians are suffering the cash crunch.
You can imagine somebody paying you 50,000 naira on a daily basis. You can imagine that kind of a business transaction. And the lady was so confident about the business.
And yet we have like the 8th batch of them now being reintegrated into the society. And one want to ask, are we really ready to combat insecurity in Nigeria? Or is it that the government actually are kind of telling Nigerians what they want Nigerians to hear? Because according to the advisor of Borno State, he said this is the 8th batch. 560 of them, they call them repentant Boko Haram members, to be reintegrated back into the society.
You know, when you say you are having a repentant Boko Haram, well, when you go to the markets, when you go to the field, on a football field, we have the football players, we have the speculators, we also have the angers. Like we say in the school, we have the anger and the squatters.
Yeah.
So maybe those repentant Boko Haram, I'm not sure they're the real business guys.
No, the question of my
if truly they're the real Boko Haram that we're dealing with,
you don't think they would
I don't think this one will repent. Somebody who is dashing a young lady 50,000.
What did you have with that ulterior motive that you came out, maybe to get information on what is happening on the outer world to go back again? Because that actually has been
it's not of it. No, for me to go to the market. No, for me to go to the market on your behalf, it won't be only market, apparently. In the course of the market, even inside the market, you know, inside every market, there are a lot of businesses that goes on. But we go into the market with the aims of that, okay, I'm going to purchase so and so. But underneath every market in Nigeria, there are a lot of billions of transactions going on underneath that is not open to you and I. Why? Because we are not part of the men of the underworld.
Oh.
So there are a lot of transactions. So each time a lady comes out from that den into the society, into the market, she's doing the normal shopping and also doing the what? The under shopping.
All right then. Okay.
We definitely will be coming back to it. Let's take Oyedamola, our correspondent, Oyedamola Olukoton, who is on the streets to get the insights of Nigerians on the streets. Let's have an hour. Good morning, Oyedamola.
Hello and good morning. Sir, please hold on. Good morning, everyone. We're already at the newspaper stand this morning to bring you the opinions of citizens regarding the newspaper airline. Sorry, 1 second. Okay, so our commentators just left. We'll be right back. We're taking it back to the studio.
His thoughts right there, and they walked out in anger. Well, we were already hearing his complaints. He was talking about the purported strike and a few other things there. But unfortunately, we couldn't wait to finish up what he was saying. Oh well, let's get into some of the papers now. We'll come back to our correspondent Oyedamola in the course of time, if time allows us. Let's go to the Guardian newspaper now. One headline on the Guardian reads, inflation, weak fiscal support pushes CBN to further rate hikes, credit squeeze. And then the cartoon pictorial there shows CBN with a balloon, a depiction of CBN with a balloon taking him into the sky. He has lost his footing. Being taken up into the sky. That's inflation, 34.19%. Interest rates on one hand, 26.75%. And then businesses and Nigerians chasing after the CBN. Quite an interesting pictorial there. And then there's a rider to it. It appears the inflation hedges are weak. CBN needs help. Okay. Now, underneath that one, NAS OK 70,000 naira minimum wage adjusts 2024 budget by 6.2 trillion naira. Atiku backs planned protests as Tinubu begs Nigerians. House of Reps orders NERC, that's NERC, discos to reverse Band A tariff hike. Additional backs Dangote as Kyari denies owning overseas refinery. Senate passes Police Act bill. Extends IGP's tenure till 2027. Why at this time? One would ask. Nigeria working to overtake world economies, says Shetima. And then we have a picture of a president of Dangote Industries, Aliko Dangote, and in Gabon, on the invitation of the president, Bryce Oligui Nguema, talking about exploring investment opportunities in cement and fertilizer, Well, those are the headlines from the Guardian newspaper. How do you react? Which tickles your fancy?
34% inflation rate and 26% and above for the interest rate.
The new increased interest rate.
Yeah, the new increased interest rate. Now, the question you ask yourself, what are we actually increasing? And who is increasing what? And we can see, I love what the artist has done, helping us to see that the CBN is already, not even floating, they are already blown away by the activities of the economy. This has to do with what I explained on one of my interviews last year. That should be late last year. And I said that this particular crisis we're going to be having going forward is beyond the CBN. Okay. When we say it's beyond the CBN, now, CBN governor is supposed to be independent, but it's not independent. Even CBN itself is supposed to be independent, but apparently it's not independent.
There are a lot of interferences.
Now, there's something called the MPC, all right? The Monetary Policy Committees. Right. Now, are you aware that these guys are more powerful than the CBN governor? Well, most people don't know. The only thing when you say CBN, the next thing you shout is CBN governor. There are guys that determine what happened at the market. Take, for instance, look at the days when the tsunami happened in the commercial banks. I was part of the system then. You can see what happened then, the tsunami. How come the tsunami came in? Few men will have their NPC meeting and will increase the figure of the market, maybe from 5 naira to 10 naira. And in the real market, the price is actually 2 naira. So they will make you and I to go to the market to rush to buy shares, to buy investments at the rate of 5 naira or 10 naira. By the following morning, they will reduce it back to 3 naira. All right? So you and I will be happy that maybe something has been done and it's going to be stabilized. And they will leave that for 1 week. By the time they are meeting the following week, they will increase it back to about 7 naira. You can see it going on forward. And in that process, somebody is cashing out. So what are we saying? Is it possible that CBN will be independent going forward? Independent of the Minister of Finance. Independent of even the presidency.
It's interesting you mentioned that the CBN needs to be independent. But my question now would be, for the ordinary Nigerian who desires to get a loan from the bank with this new interest rate, is there the possibility that that person can pay? And then for the ones that already have collected the loan from the banks, will this new interest rate not affect them drastically as well?
No, when you say that, whether the rate will affect them drastically, it's like you are trying to paint the picture, or you are trying to paint down the picture. You know, as an ex-banker, the rate will kill the business on arrival. It's not that maybe it will it will kill the business on arrival. So
like you're foreseeing a very disastrous ending for most businesses in Nigeria with this interest rate?
For the next 5 years, if care is not taken, the projection is not positive for the business outlook of Nigeria. The projection is actually not positive. So
entrepreneurs in Nigeria should be very worried at this time.
For now, for the SMEs, if you are not into what we call tangible goods or tangible products, I'm afraid. If you are more on the aspect of services, I don't know how you want to survive the economic outlook. Because if you are still part of the tangible goods, well, you can still play around the figures. For instance, if you are in agri sector, you can play with the figures. What does that mean? As at last week, we got Gary a bucket, or like the plastic. That's the paint plastic. That's about 4-5 thereabout. Okay, this week is 5,000. All right. In some other places, you can still get it for 3-5. So what does that mean? You can play with figures around that sector. But if you are selling services, how do you want to play with around figures? Because as a consultant, I don't want to play with figures. Are you going to tell the whoever you're consulting for that inflation is affecting your services? So, and you know that kind of inflation that will be affecting your services can never be equated to 26%.
So does it mean that the sitting vice president actually is not privy to all this information? Because he's of the opinion that Nigeria is working to overtake the world economy. And this actually can be found on the front page of the National Daily this morning on page 30 of the Guardian newspaper.
Well, it's one thing to be in power. It's another thing to understand the meaning of power. And it's also another thing to understand the meaning of economy. Economy works with figures. Economy does not work with policy or with just sentiment alone. Economy works with figures. What have I done now? What have I given you now? Figures. Just on arena of Gary alone, I've given you figures that can assist an average SME holder. If you're in that sector, you can play with figures.
All right, then we do appreciate your analysis, but this is how far we can go with the paper review. Thank you very much, Akwelu Taiwo. We'll take a break now. When we come back, we'll be looking at one of the conversations we have this morning. Grievances, the president telling Nigerian youth to shelve their planned August 1st protest and saying grievances will be addressed. Well, let's talk about this one when we come back from this break.